Welcome back. Well, Tama Ashuri joins us next to give us her perspective. Well, Tama's actually a U.S. Air Force intelligence, former U.S. Air Force intelligence analyst, and also the CEO of Bulwark Intelligence. Also been involved in counter-insurgency and counter-terrorism operations in support of multinational forces in Southwest Asia, Middle East, and North Africa. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
But again, many of these IEDs, that seems to be the base, the core function, if I could, the nucleus of some of these attacks. And you've studied this for a while. What have you seen?
Okay. So we all know that, the use of IEDs really is a tactic by a group that's struggling. They're at the very end, and they're just trying to make sure or make a statement for themselves and trying to stay relevant. Okay, now, when it comes to the IED attacks that happened in Abuja, I know everyone's talking about, okay, what can we do to make things better? They've been, on the security aspect, they say, why don't we harden the target? Hardening a target means that, you put additional measures in place. You put, gates, barriers, additional security checks, and so on. And yes, that's what you need to do on the security part. But then what do you do on the intelligence part? Because to be honest, to defeat suicide IEDs and suicide, attacks, you're going to actually have to have a very strong intelligence base. Now, I'm talking about their collections. We're looking at human intelligence, and I'll explain that a little bit more, and communications intelligence. Human intelligence means, you have informants on the ground, you have people you're talking to, and so on. You're gathering information from the community, you're gathering information from everyone. Now, communications intelligence is very important in this case because I think that these cells are actually still communicating with each other. And our security personnel, security agencies need to figure out how to intercept these communications. Why do I say that? Well, we saw the IED tactics go from, okay, just sending one suicide bomber out there, she blows herself. And then they said, oh, let's start doing 2. And so you then see the same tactic is going on both here in Niger and Cameroon. They send 2 at a time. But then what happened in the past 2 weeks is they've increased it from 2 to now sending about 3 or 4 at a time. So when you're seeing it happen in Maiduguri, and then you then see it happen again in Abuja, the same thing, which is they sent 4 suicide bombers, you have to think and know that, okay, clearly, even though they're operating as decentralized cells, they're still communicating with someone somewhere.
Isn't this just about being a copycat? You see it happen here, and you're thinking, why can't we do it? Why can't we do it as well? And then they copy exactly what they've seen, not necessarily communication.
Well, they will copy it if it's effective. And yes, they are seeing that suicide attacks are effective. And so that's why they're copying it. But the reason why I think that they're communicating is because they're using an equipment, which is they're using the IED devices. So there's someone who's there who's making these devices. And then someone is handing them out. They're not just going to say, okay, I'm going to make 4 because I saw them use 4 in Abuja and it worked. No, they're actually going to say, you know what, this is what we're going to do. And then they start acting and putting it together. Now, it's very important, this thing about the IED maker, because what these attacks tell me is that there is someone out there who is an expert. He's an expert. I don't know, how is he making 4 IEDs back to back constantly? Do they have a stockpile somewhere that they're just sending out? Or is he now an expert, he's making it so quickly, he can send it out? And these are sorts of information that, our security personnel need to know.
Because, there are several times that I think we've seen security forces parade or tell us that they've been able to get some of those who were making these IEDs for these people. And you thought, okay, maybe it's about to come to an end because they should be able to get information from that person about who is doing what and where.
Yes, and you're right. I think they actually do get a lot of information. In fact, after they arrested, they apprehended an IED maker, then they found there was an IED making factory that they found not too long afterwards. So yes, they are extracting information from this person. But then, like I said, they're still operating as decentralized cells. Now, so this guy that they caught, perhaps he's in charge of a certain area or a certain cell. But then he may not know too much about the other guys who are operating, in Adamawa, operating, somewhere else in Maiduguri.
So that's usually the training. They're trained to be able to operate in isolation.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. They're not operating in isolation. I mean, but then there was a key thing, and I kept thinking about this. Shekau released another audio saying, we're still going strong and so on. And, some personnel were actually very quick to dismiss it. Like, he's just, talking, he's a dying horse that, something like that. But then you really shouldn't take that lightly. I think the fact that whether it's Shekau or some Shekau person is talking out there is still, people still need to be on their guards. When I say people, I mean the security agencies still need to be on their guard. Why do I say that? Look at Osama from very far away. He's not even in the forefront, but he was still inspiring people to do things. The fact that, the leader of Boko Haram is still out there. We don't know how he's communicating with some of the other members and still inspiring them to keep going.
Once we get into the twilight of Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria, it becomes so difficult getting to see that they have taken another trend. Don't forget, it was also in the news when they were trying to have a bargain with the government and asking in return that they get the release of their bomb maker. It tells you something about going into a lot of bombings in the country. But you put that side by side with another video that has just been released saying that ISIS owning, taking responsibility of what has just happened in Nyanya in Abuja. How do you put that if we are getting to see another international group, ISIS, saying that they were the ones responsible for the bomb attack in Nigeria, because that just broke, is everywhere now, that they're saying. And you put that side by side with what we had seen in another video of Shekau where he was pledging allegiance to ISIS. Is it to say that whatever we see in such videos shouldn't be discarded?
It shouldn't. It mustn't. In fact, it's now that you're saying, I don't know how, if it's been confirmed, but if you're saying that ISIS is taking responsibility, it sort of makes sense. I mean, if you look back at what's been going on, I believe the last audio, probably before the previous one that Shekau released, he was, really giving them kudos, letting them know, hey, we're still here with you, you have our back. And he gave a shout out to them. And, when I read that, I thought to myself, well, is it that he's trying to still solicit funds from them? Is he getting help from them? Are they training people? Are they sending people? But, it was significant even that he just said, I want to especially, give a message to them. So you're right in that there is that influence, there possibly could be that influence of ISIS as well in BH. And that's something to not take too lightly.